by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
Mourners pay their respects to the late President George H.W. Bush. I'm Nicole Killian on Capitol Hill with the emotional tribute from lawmakers.
And it was state of the art just a few years ago, but now Gallatin County's jail needs some upgrades. What's being asked for and how much it'll cost? Coming up.
Good morning to you. Welcome to your Tuesday. I'm Missy O'Malley with the famous Chet Lehman. It is 6:29 here on this Tuesday morning, and our top story for you now. The Capitol Rotunda is open to the public today and overnight as thousands pour in to pay their respect to President George H.W. Bush.
Yeah, the lines were there all night long. Yesterday, Washington's political elite held their first tribute to the late president, who died last week at the age of 94. CBS's Nicole Killian is on Capitol Hill with more.
People of all ages are filing through the Capitol Rotunda to say a final goodbye to President George H.W. Bush.
If the line stretched all the way to Richmond, I still was going to stand in it.
Yesterday in Texas, the extended Bush family and his service dog Sully accompanied the casket aboard Air Force One, renamed Special Air Mission 41 for the trip to Washington. With a picturesque sunset, his casket was carried up the Capitol steps as an emotional President George W. Bush looked on.
Inside, Washington's current political leaders highlighted the dedication the late president had to his country.
His example will always inspire, and his lifetime of service will be enshrined in the hearts of the American people forever.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell praised his service as a Navy combat pilot in World War II.
George Herbert Walker Bush steered this country as straight as he steered that airplane. He kept us flying high and challenged us to fly higher still.
After the ceremony, President Trump and First Lady Melania visited the Rotunda, where the 45th president saluted the 41st. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Now President Bush will lie in state at the Capitol until his funeral at the National Cathedral tomorrow morning. His body will then be flown back to Texas, where he'll be buried on the grounds of the Presidential Library in Texas, next to his wife Barbara and his daughter Robin. 41 hours he will lay in state.
That's amazing.
I think that's cool.
That's
representing
very cool.
41th president.
And Vice President Pence's speech, we heard a little bit of it earlier, just beautiful.
Absolutely true.
Yep.
Yeah, we were talking about the military precision with all that. It's just, it's super moving. And
really
Sully.
And Sully the dog.
Meantime, Matt, just stepped outside a little bit here. It's beautiful out there right now. It's super warm here in tropical Four Corners. Your thermometer says it's 20.
Yeah.
It's like a heat wave. I roll my sleeves up and, you know.
Enjoy.
That's it.
Temperatures for the most part
Drink
on
my
the
iced
cooler
coffee that I
side.
left out there.
Temperature right now sitting at 9 degrees in Dillon, 14 in West Yellowstone, mainly dealing with clearing skies this morning, some patchy fog, even some light snowflakes from some of the foggy conditions that are out there. Our daytime high should be into the mid to upper 20s for the afternoon. Does look like our temperatures will warm up, just not right away. We'll talk about that, of course, coming up in just a few minutes.
You've never had iced coffee.
June, well, I have. If you leave that cup outside for very long, it turns to iced coffee. That's the only way that works. That's how it happens. And it will warm up soon. June is just around the corner, Matt. Thank you for that.
That's right. August.
6:32 now. It has been about 8 years since the new Gallatin County Detention Center was built. Since then, technology has changed.
Which is why the Sheriff's Office is asking the Commission for some upgrades. MTN's Medeiros Babb has our details.
We want to stay proactive. We want to do things that are safe for the inmates as well as safe for the officers.
Each year, the Sheriff's Office asks the county for money to make upgrades to the jail. This year, they are asking for close to $500,000 for updated cameras, beds, and a body scanner. Under Sheriff Dan Springer says the body scanner would cost around $170,000, but would help decrease any weapons or drugs that would not be found on a standard PAT search.
So if that were to occur, then we can house that person separately until it passes. And it's not introduced into the general population, whether it's drugs or some kind of a weapon, whatever it might be.
The jail currently has 160 beds and is asking the County Commission for money to add 18 beds to hold more inmates. County Commissioner Steve White says the money the sheriff is asking for would not be spent from taxpayer dollars, but the revenue collected from renting out cells to other counties.
And that's what this money is. So it's not coming from the taxpayers of Gallatin County. it's coming, the source of it is coming from other jurisdictions that are utilizing our facility.
That's been the goal behind this facility all along, is to go ahead and have revenue and bed spaces available to other agencies, bill them, and then use those monies for the upgrades so we're not having to go back to the taxpayers.
White says over the years, the jail has generated about $3 million in revenue, which it has saved for upgrades and future expansions. In Bozeman, Medeiros Babb, MTN News.
The commission does plan to review those requests and give the sheriff an answer by next spring.
Shifting gears just a little bit, students, staff, and faculty at Sacagawea Middle School in Bozeman were evacuated yesterday for a short time because of a suspected gas leak. Just after noon, natural gas odor reported near the school's mechanical room. It's when the evacuation order was given. Crews from Northwestern Energy and Bozeman Fire Department responded. School's gas regulator was found to be operating properly, and everyone was allowed back inside about a half hour later.
And despite all the political rhetoric over Obamacare, it's still the law of the land. And that law is helping thousands of Montanans buy health insurance policies on the individual market. MTN's Mike Dennison has our story.
Earlier this year, Republicans in Congress eliminated the Affordable Care Act's mandate that all citizens must have health insurance. But Congress has not repealed another key component of the law: federal subsidies to help those buying policies on the individual market. Sign up for these policies is underway. The deadline to sign on and get the subsidy is December 15th, a week from Saturday. Just like in years before, Montana consumers who want the subsidy must buy a policy through the federal website, healthcare.gov.
Not much has changed, and I think people are becoming more familiar with the process. It's an opportunity for folks to go online, shop the differences between health insurers, shop the differences between the cost and the benefit structure, and find the plan that works for them. 3 insurers offer the policies in Montana: Blue Cross, Pacific Source, and the Montana Health Co-op. Currently, about 50,000 people in Montana have these policies. But they aren't cheap. They range from a low of $324 a month for young adults up to $1,200 a month for those approaching 65. And deductibles are in the range of $5,000 to $7,000 a year. Yet, if you earn less than 400% of the federal poverty line, almost $66,000 a year for a couple, you could be eligible for a subsidy. Richard Miltenberger of the Health Co-op says with the subsidies, most Montanans pay a lot less, sometimes as little as $50 a month. 85% of Montanans who bought policies in the past have been eligible for the subsidy. Despite a lack of publicity about the marketplace policies this year, Montana insurers say they're hoping enrollment will be pretty much the same as last year. I think enrollment is still steady. A lot of people understand the value of having a health insurance plan, whether that's the access that you get to primary care or whether it's that financial safety net that you have in times of crisis.
Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Interesting story there.
For sure.
Always something to learn. Now, in an era of skyrocketing home prices and a lack of housing, some people are getting creative when it comes to buying and building a place to live.
Yeah, and this week's Montana Made, MTN's Justine Stewart gets around to showing us how one Missoula company is offering something different in the form of yurts.
You may have seen them at ski resorts or while planning that glamping vacation at some exotic location. But yurts have been around for centuries. Essentially, it's a portable, round tent traditionally used as dwellings in Central Asia. Now, with some modern upgrades, yurt living is catching on across the globe and right here in Montana. The owners of Shelter Designs in Missoula, Vince Godby and Hayes Daniel, are in the thick of this growing, sustainable, and affordable living trend.
We've definitely seen yurts go from being kind of like a fringe, misunderstood, maybe you say, what is a ski area, but you're not really sure about it, to really moving more towards the mainstream and being accepted.
Daniel and Godby started building yurts 10 years ago out of necessity. They simply needed a place to live. Then they started building them for friends. And it just grew from there.
We have them as far away as up above the Arctic Circle in Norway for a kayaking camp. We have them in Tasmania, Alaska, all over North America, Europe.
Shelter Designs produces up to 80 yurts a year. Half of those are for full-time residences.
It's not as easy as it was to get $300,000 for a house, you know, and so people can really, instead of getting into a mortgage for 20 or 30 years, they can just pay for it and be done and be comfortable.
The other half are for commercial businesses or maybe resorts looking to create that unique experience for guests.
They are hot, they get rented all the time, and they cost a fraction of what building cabins would. So, I mean, people look at a cabin, they go to a resort and they look at a cabin, they live in a house, they're like, well, I know what that is, but what is that? And then they want to rent the yurt.
Whatever the use, Shelter Designs can accommodate.
The yurt can become whatever you want, but it's very common for people, once the yurt is up, to frame interior walls to make bedrooms and kitchens and bathrooms and wire and plumb everything like you would a traditional home.
Almost all of the products used to create the yurts are from the Intermountain Northwest and right here in Montana.
The unique thing about the Eco Yurt model is that we do use small diameter lodgepole pine rafters that are sourced right around the Missoula area here.
Once the yurts are made, they are shipped off to clients in the form of a kit with detailed instructions on how to put it together.
It is a project, no matter even the smallest yurt. I mean, it's not quite like pitching a tent.
But it seems to be something most customers and their neighbors are embracing.
One thing that the yurts do that used to be kind of common in our culture that maybe isn't anymore is the idea of a barn raising. Like where everybody in the community can come together, and you don't have to be a good carpenter necessarily, or a plumber or an electrician, or you don't have to know the trades. If you can lend a hand, you're useful. So it's all the strongest shapes in nature. So they're pretty cool structures like that.
In Missoula, Justine Stewart, MTN News.
Now, for more information on Shelter Designs and the yurts they make, you can head on over to our websites. Little kids love them too, because Mom never tells you to go stand in the corner.
Oh,
because they're round.
Oh, Chet, good one.
I'm just saying.
Good one. You're not going to want to miss this.
Nope.
I love it. I love it. We do have to take a quick break, but we want you to stay with us. In a moment, could it be? Could you get arrested for throwing a snowball? We'll take you to Colorado for this story in just a moment.
But first, we're going to check in with Bianca Goladriga to see what's coming up at 7 on CBS This Morning.
Ahead on CBS This Morning, the public begins to pay final respects to the 41st president as he lies in state. Robert Gates, George H.W. Bush's CIA director, is here to share his memories of the late commander-in-chief. And a Wells Fargo so-called calculation error may have caused hundreds to lose their homes. The financial and emotional issues that glitch caused and how the bank is now trying to fix the problem. Also, a habits expert is here in Studio 57 with tips to get the most of your morning routine. We'll see you at 7.